Thank you so much and welcome. I was just going in knowing that you were going to join us. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome once again to our usual Monday slot. This is a debate. I am your host, Mbolifor Elvis Ambi, and today I will be in the studio with Mrs. Oben Miranda, who is going to be thrilling us for an hour. And the topic for today for our debate is what role can the diaspora play in achieving the Africa we want by 2063? We want to see how to popularize and domesticate this agenda effectively. Thank you so much for joining us. Those who are on Facebook Live and equally on YouTube, Madam, you're welcome to the Sumpon Global TV platform. This is your
Thank
platform. This is your space. You're welcome, ma'am.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me once more. I hope I'm not muted and everybody can hear me very well. It's a pleasure always to be invited and re-invited to your show. So Elvis, you and the team, you're doing a great job and thank you for the invitation on this beautiful Monday.
Thank you so much. You are a usual figure on our platform. You maybe just introduce yourself again, once again, to those who are seeing you new. When you're around, I know it's fireworks, and I always like to have you with me
Right.
on this platform.
So, yeah, the part which is usually difficult is introducing myself, but I'll try to structure it using 4 P's. So, let's start with profession. I am an engineer by profession. I work as an IT manager in a global structure, which based out of Germany. I correlate and work with other countries in the world. I'm connected to the ASG, that's Austria, Switzerland, Germany branch of my company. So, I work there Monday through Friday as from 5 or actually from 8 to 4 or 5 as an IT manager. Privately, I'm a wife and a mom, devoted wife and mom. So cooking, taking care of the household, doing homeschooling also for our little boy during the past months with the COVID-19 situation. And then when it comes to a passion, I love hosting events. I love taking Africa to the next level. I love showcasing our skills and talents to anybody who is out there, any platform which is out there to listen to us and know the great men and women we have. And then the other P is I call it philanthropy, right? I encourage young girls to take up studies in STEM, sciences, technology, engineering, and medicine. So I also mentor young girls. And when I'm not doing all this, then I am the president and founder of the Returnees Project Incorporated, which is based out of Germany and connects with 11 countries in the diaspora and encourages people living in the diaspora to one, return home, or two, invest home, most especially invest in the young talents which we have on the continent and try to push the continent going forward as much as we can. I think that's just a little bit about me for now, Elvis.
Thank you so much. I think your introduction tells us that you're going to just be a square peg in a square hole. Today, that we are looking at the role of the diaspora in taking us up to achieving our Agenda 2063. I want to see how the diasporas can help to domesticate, to popularize this agenda so that each and every one of us get to know the agenda, get to know what is out all about, and equally see how we can promote it. So, and you are a diaspora, and I'm happy that I got just the right panelists for today. And you are so eloquent and always straight to the point. Thank you so much for being part of us. We are so happy that you always answer present when we need your services, and you're always so educative, informative, and equally motivating to those who listen to you. Today, we are talking about diaspora. What can you say about diaspora before we get into the exchange conversation, actually?
Oh, well, first I'll start with, all this, the general term, of course, diaspora, us those who left the continent and are in different parts of the world, different countries, Germany for me, UK for others watching, and maybe USA, France, all these countries in the world. But when you look at the diaspora collectively, yes, it's a big form. It's a big platform, but when you think about individuals, so I usually look at the diaspora, but I also want to focus on the individual role we can play. So if we collectively are known as the diaspora, then remember before we took that plane on that first day we got on that flight to leave the country, we were pretty much part of the country and the nation's building or the nation. So it's rather unfortunate when some leave the country that they forget the country. So the first thing I want to point out is the moment you got that visa and got on that flight, or at least we're leaving that airport for the first time to come here, you don't forget your roots, right? So that's always my cry to the diaspora. Don't forget your roots. Always look back to your brothers and sisters who are back there. The diaspora's role is what I'll start with, right? So looking at the diaspora, how can we collectively make an impact on the continent? It starts with each one of us, right? Look at the Returnees platform. What we do, and we just wrapped up, is showcasing, because most people who have visions and projects in Cameroon need the diaspora to invest in them. But since the diaspora seems to have had negative, let me put it, feedback from home, they're skeptical sometimes about the young entrepreneurs who have projects that need to be encouraged. On the other hand, the people on the continent have also had bad experiences with some diasporans. And so it gives that first thing I noticed, or the first shock I had, was that sometimes you have the diaspora speaking negatively about some business ventures in Africa. On the other hand, also you have people in Africa who have negative, experiences with diasporans coming to invest home, or they'll be like, they'll come here and say big talks, like tell us big stuff, promises, and never hold. So what we wanted to create the first with the Returnees project was get a kind of platform where when I recommend someone on that platform, it's someone trustworthy. Trust plays an extremely important role in all what we're talking about today. Having the diaspora return or invest home or invest in any business, it takes trust. And so we create a platform or a situation in which we know that when we recommend someone from that platform, it will be someone you can trust to do business with. It'll be someone, it doesn't matter what domain, agriculture, the medical, IT, etc. It doesn't matter. But for the diaspora, first of all, find that our own, we call it our Craigslist, that our own platform of people who are either in the diaspora or who are in Cameroon, or those who just returned from the diaspora, who now build a trustworthy platform on which you can rely. And then when we set up that structure, now we broke it down, or the diaspora can join us, we broke it down into different domains. So if I'm interested in IT, it doesn't necessarily mean the next young lady I'm going to see will be interested in IT, or an investor who will be interested in IT. So we put some little silos of areas of interest with the experts in the different domains. So I'm not going to start recommending and talking much about agriculture, because it's not my field, but we will get someone on the platform who connects with the diaspora, who is interested in investing in exactly that area. So to my question and an answer to the role of the diaspora would be, find these credible young entrepreneurs or these credible platforms which exist already on the continent, and work hand in hand with them to, one, either invest in some particular business you want to invest in, or two, if you want to return home, you can't live long enough to make all the mistakes by yourself. So how about getting in touch with a platform which already has like a little a structure or write up of the mistakes people made in the past, right? I'll mention a name here. She's in Douala and quite resourceful, Miss Sen, Laura Sen. She lived in the UK for many years and went back to Douala. From the mistakes she has made as someone who returned back to the country, she's able to put up something which helps the diaspora to say, hey, if you want to do business with the continent, if you want to invest in the continent, if you want to return to the continent, you might want to have this checklist of things that you know before you even pack your bags to return, or before you start investment there. So don't go thinking you want to make the mistakes she had already made. She put up a checklist of what happened in her situation when she went back. So that is also what you could do, and it falls in line with a tip, right? And then another tip which she gives the diasporans is, yes, you want to do something by yourself. Everybody wants to leave a legacy. Everybody wants to create an impact on the continent. Best thing is, if you want to invest or you want to return, either of the two, make sure you do take the time to make that first trip on the continent. You can't be away for 10 years and you just expect to get up one day like, oh, no, I'm returning home and pack your bags. Oh, no, I'm investing. And then you put a lot of money on some business opportunity. It's good to do that due diligence, have a team do it, but then get your findings right. Right. So I always say, if you want to swim fast, hang onto these sharks, that are already swimming really fast. Not as in dangerous, but the speed of implementation is very important. So, having mentioned that, you have to find a platform you trust. You have to be able to learn from others' mistakes. You have to do this checklist of what you do. You have to physically go on the ground to understand by yourself how the business is. But then you want to learn. I'll expand on that later, on others who have made it. How did they make it? How can you follow them? Then I'll mention a little bit the government's role. The government says they've set up platforms which encourage the diaspora to return or invest back home. Yes, the platforms are there, but these platforms cannot work if you don't actively make them work. So in our case, for the Returnees Project Incorporated, to make these platforms work, we needed to find a connector, those who are on the continent, those who are still in the diaspora. And our main connector and success so far with the Returnees Project since 2016 till now has been to identify those individuals who lived in the diaspora and have returned back home. Now, they are the ones who understand the West and understand the Cameroon, let me put it, of today, or Nigeria, or Ghana. Because remember, leaving home at the age of about 16, 17, returning at the age of about 33 to 35, you don't have the same experiences. Even with technology, a lot of things are different. So for the government, I always just call upon the government to look at those who have already returned on the continent. If you can throw the light on them, shine the light on them, listen to what they're complaining about, and actively take that into practice, you'll be able to get more of the diaspora returning. I might mention this to you actually, Elvis, because we had our project presented in uh, I don't know if I can mention the country yet, but the head of state of one of the African countries. Maybe I'll mention down the road. Send a message to ask if I can say this already. And yes, just a second, I'll have to get my lighting on. And yes, one of the things that was presented at that particular meeting, I get my lighting on, everyone. You see, I double up as an IT professional and also here working with you all this evening. So I had two laptops on and the lighting was on the other one. Okay. So on this African country was presented to the head of state, and the head of state has said, this is the kind of project I've wanted for my country. Get these people to me. So while we're here doing this in Cameroon, replicating it in Nigeria and Ghana, we have this head of state now request that we have the same project replicated in his country. So the government, which identifies the fact that those who have returned and are already on the ground, will help him get other people investing back home or returning back home, is what we leverage on. One thing I'll mention maybe during the course of our discussion is how we look at individual success and how we put it up to collective success, and how we can use success stories to now make others emulate them. We have most of these documentaries on the Returnees platforms online, which tells itself narrative stories of those who have returned on the continent or those who are investing on the continent, now sharing what it is they did, which you all should do if you want to think about, that Africa we all want.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just a little highlight, I'll say, for now, Elvis, what we've been doing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The returnees slowly doing quite much already.
Yeah.
That is a big footprint already on the development of Africa, promoting Africa, as well as involving youths. Because I know you're working with youths, not alone, and making them to really feel the impact of the returnees on developing Africa. I think from your submission, I got that diaspora have negative feedbacks from home. We are going to come back to that. It's a serious point, very serious, which actually is not to be taken with a pinch of salt. And that always make a checklist and get your findings right before returning home to set up a business. Find a platform you trust. Do your feasibility studies yourself. Do not leave home and only come back 50, 30 years after and just come and set up a business without understanding what actually obtains on the ground. And you say it is good to find a connector to identify individuals or understand who understand the West, of course, and actually understand how it obtains back home, and that government should equally listen to those who are returning home because they are coming back home with much knowledge, with much expertise. And on this point, we'll be looking at brain drain, actually, which is a very serious aspect. In all the topics that, or most of the topics that we have taken, we see brain drain always being a problem. Thank you so much for that submission. I have a small story before we continue. I was discussing with somebody and talking about diaspora on this point, And the person told me that not everybody is a diaspora. And I was like, what are you talking about? And now that takes me to the second question, one of the questions, which is asking that when does a migrant, because you know that when you talk of diaspora, you talk of somebody getting into a plane or onto a plane and landing somewhere, leaving his or her place of origin. And so we want to know when a migrant ceases to be one and now becomes a diaspora.
That's a very good question. I hope I'm not muted. Let me have a look at that. Right. So that's a very, very good question there. The way it's looked at, it's also mostly like we who are here. I usually start with the first generation of someone who had left their home and has moved to a new place definitely falls under the category of a diasporan, right? And actually, one of the descriptions here, or the let me put it the way the word is described is a diaspora is a scattered population whose origin lies in a separate geographic locale, right? So, but I'm not looking at now our children and our children's children, because the idea of the diaspora for me is now this our first generation of people who were born elsewhere, have roots elsewhere, grew up elsewhere, and then left the country of origin and moved into another place for many reasons. Could be marriage, could be education, could be whatever. But generations to come, I would be thinking like third, fourth generation after that, you would hardly want to be classifying these kids as diasporans. Because if you notice already with most of the kids who are now teenagers, some say they're African, some say they're German or British or American. So it depends now strongly on how the parents have a tie on the kids for the child to still feel like it's a part of the diaspora. But usually, I want to define the diasporan as that person who was born in another part of the world, mostly Africans in our case, and then we migrated or we moved into another locale, geographic locale, as it's defined by most of the dictionaries online, to settle in a new settlement. So that would be the diaspora. And most of this, also, if I'm alone here, I can't be a diaspora by myself. So it's a collective union of those people who maybe left Africa or Cameroon and are living here. I hope that helps a little bit to whoever was talking to you about the diaspora.
As the person continued, I got really mixed up somewhere along the line because he talked
Mhm,
of that there were different types of diasporas. And I said,
mhm,
oh, how do we have different types of diaspora? But we know that when you move, you have moved. So I
mhm,
wish to
mhm.
learn from you if it is possible that we can have different types of diaspora.
Categorizing it, well, I'm not, well, I always say this in general, I'm not a fan of putting people in boxes, right? So different types of diaspora per se, I wouldn't want to really categorize in that way. All I know is that the way you would structure the diaspora would depend on the activities they have, right? So I wouldn't want to categorize the diaspora as types. I don't know what, maybe you could expand exactly what he meant by that, by going into the different types of diaspora.
Yeah, just to throw some light and create some fun, because
Mhm.
we were looking at some people who have moved, and the problem they actually are having is that they can't even return back home because they
That
cannot
the
survive.
reason for the move.
Yes, they
You mean
can't
for the
even
reason
survive
now?
while here,
Right.
and so they are not even influential where they are. When they think of even coming back home, they are like scared. What will people
Yeah.
see? I am coming
Yeah.
back home empty-handed, worse than I left. But they
Right.
are diaspora. And we are talking about the role of diaspora actually today on seeing how this Agenda 2063 can be achieved with them. And so when we look at how some people are leaving the diaspora, we begin to ask ourselves if with this type of people who are diaspora, we can be able to
Let me
achieve
let me
that.
just cut.
We are not looking at those
Yeah.
who are we are not looking at those who are less privileged to move the agenda. We're looking at people who can actually
Who
take the
can
baton
actually
ahead.
move the agenda. Yes, I see what you mean. But I think what he was trying to say now is looking back at you saying that it's not really as in the title there, is what even made you leave your country of origin in the first place, right? So in that one, in the case of, let me put it, exile, you categorize that as victim diaspora, right? Like you were pushed or forced to leave your country. Like there was violence, and then there was nothing you could have done to stay. If you it was either a matter of life or death. So in that case, we could categorize them for what reason made you to even leave your home country. Another case you would think in the past when people will leave as mass labor to go to another country, right? And you'll be talking about the labor diaspora. They were actually moved because they needed to go help work on something in another country. So that will have to do more with work, more labor diaspora. But what we're looking at for the Agenda 2063 is more, let me call it in quote now here, like kind of like the education, knowledge-based kind of diaspora, those who came as a reason of to further their studies, work hard, learn more, get better into better institutions, better places, and maybe return to take up places in government in their countries, or return to that brain gain now, going back home to give back whatever you've learned in there. So I will just take those three for now, of course.
Mhm. Yeah, that is so good when you elaborate. It makes people to actually understand.
Yes.
But we have a controversy here that,
Mhm.
according to economists, in spite of the efforts that diaspora are making, very little evidence can be seen on the ground when it comes to nation building with the diaspora. What can you say about this? It's like what you people do is not actually felt on the ground, whereas you're putting in so much effort. You just mentioned a long list of the things that the returnees do, and maybe it will be felt more in where in the area where you are than actually back here at home. What can be the problem that we can't get the weight of these
Um,
activities back home?
with this, I'll say everybody's voice counts. Yeah, everybody's voice counts, and for anybody who can send the message forward or pass the message on is best. What I'll say, our biggest success, let me put it that we became a household name in Cameroon. I speak for Cameroon now. I can't speak for Nigeria and Ghana yet. Is the media. The media really accompanied us from 2016 till today. So we will have reports on TV, on radio, in newspapers, and all that, but that is as much as the media can do. Like I always say, the people have the power to make this information go further. So what are you and I doing, you watching today, what are we doing to pass on this message of that diaspora that is investing back home, that diaspora that is returning back home? So for this point of having the message heard or seeing what is being done, our platforms are what? The TV, the radio, online presence, and all of this. I mean, you getting to me, Elvis. If I wasn't on the diaspora, on the Returnees project, you wouldn't have to always interview me and come back to this topic of return back home. Just like other platforms reach out to us. Of course, yes, we cannot accept every invitation, I know, but whenever we can, we want to come on every platform possible to pass on the message that, yeah, this is what we're doing on the continent. You can replicate it. I just got the confirmation. Yes, I can talk about this country. That's Uganda. So we're actually having now in Uganda the stage at which there's another meeting going on now in May, which has already been authorized to have the project replicated in the country. Because what we did is we identified the diasporans who had returned home and made that connector between those who never left home, those who are still in the diaspora, and it's working very seamlessly. So it's kind of like a three parts. That's why the Returnees project has people who never left home, people who have returned or investing home, and those in the diaspora. So in Uganda currently, in front of, let me put it, the head of state, they're having our project rolled out there and replicating what we did in Cameroon. Yeah. So again, to have the visibility, yeah, Uganda, thank you. You're welcome, Ruth. Again, for the visibility in any of the countries, it takes you and I to make this heard. There's something I always say: everyone has a voice, but not every voice is heard. Everyone has a voice, but not every
Everyone has
voice
a
is
voice,
heard.
but not every voice is
So,
heard.
for
That is good.
any of those who can amplify our message, all the young entrepreneurs you see on our platform online, we selected their project from hundreds of projects, and we ended up with 24 finalists who were supported, interviewed, guided, connected to mentors, and all that. For every day, we ensure that we make a lot of connections across the world, right? So especially with the pandemic now, we went on more on the online mode. No day goes by without connections being made. No day. That's a day with nothing happening if we don't have it. So our focus, first of all, is how many people do we have to reach in a day? As many as possible. Be it through newsletters on our website, be it through social media platforms, be it, or because we have a lot of interviews and documentaries running in the country while we're here, because these interviews are people narrating what it was for them to return. That's why when we get to Cameroon, or there was a meeting actually at the Ministry of External Relations, and we were very amazed and happy that they were quoting us with examples of the people we had shown there, that this is in every domain, these are our experts, talk to them. So sometimes you don't know how far you're going until you get the feedback getting back to you. So I see the importance of the visibility. I see the importance of what we're doing. We can always just keep saying, for anybody who can pass on the message, we appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I wouldn't be asking you what are the causes of diaspora, what causes people to move, because you have already made mention of that in your presentation. But we would like to know, well, remember we're talking about how the diaspora can help, or what role they can play in helping us to achieve the Agenda 2063. And when we talk of Agenda 2063, we are not leaving the AU out. So I wish to know from you what correlation, what link does the African diaspora actually have with the AU as regards Africa's development or Africa's economic growth?
Um, this particular question also puts us in the line of I'm looking at the way you put it, the correlation, right, between the diaspora and the agenda. I would want,
Mhm.
well, the role, or putting it how the diaspora can best bring up the economic and growth and development. Put it in silos, right? Put it in silos, and there is nothing which was on the agenda 2063, which is, let me put it, new as of what we can implement, right? So I'll let you rephrase the question again. Meanwhile, this is what I'll say. Put that in blocks, right? When it comes to Africa's economic growth, put it in blocks. Put the education block, put the agriculture, put the entrepreneurship, put the different structures in kind of like silos. And from then on, try now mapping that on directly to the continent, depending on the platforms, the individuals, and everybody who can pass the message on. I'll let you just rephrase the question so I can maybe answer it better. But I'm just thinking, first of all, when you mentioned that in regards to the growth, I have always wanted this, that we shouldn't see it as a global picture, but more like put them in different structure so they
Yeah,
can map onto each other. Just ask the question again.
yeah. I think with this question, I'm trying to look at how does the diaspora work hand in gloves with the AU in promoting this Agenda 2063? Is
To
there
be
a
honest,
platform
right now,
that?
I don't
Okay,
know. I
good.
would be very honest here. I don't know about some particular platform that I don't know. Anybody watching, feel free to give that on. I don't know of a particular platform that's been put in place, just saying how the diaspora can work effectively. Anybody in the comment section can please just add to that. But I don't know of a correlation as in a platform which has the
Mhm.
diaspora working with the EU hand in hand. I'll let anybody watching to put that in the comment section.
Okay, thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Sure.
We are talking about how diaspora can actually affect or influence this agenda 2063 so that we can achieve it with ease and sooner than 2063. Because I remember when I was listening to one that is Professor Lumumba, who was discussing, he said he spoke with his African friend, and the friend shouted that this agenda was too far, and we are hoping that as we are letting our voices heard through the TV, through the radio, through the social media, that everybody will begin to put hands on deck so that this agenda will be achieved. We want to thank already the returnees who are doing a wonderful job. When you mentioned projects being selected here and there, I remember what some point social service is doing. Many youths here in Cameroon or Western Africa as a whole have been benefiting from many projects that they present, and then they pitch some of the good projects which are sustainable. They always rely on a project that can assist, that can reach, that can touch many people and make life better. And we are hoping that the youths who are benefiting from these projects are actually accountable, because sometimes, like you said, that diaspora have a negative feedback. They do invest huge sums of monies, and the youths do not give any account on how this money is spent, and it is a discouragement because some other person who would have benefited from a project may be so scrutinized in a way that he or she doesn't get the benefit because they are looking at what another person did already with another project, and so it becomes penalized. So we are still here on the platform encouraging those who can promote projects. We're already taking the returnees, doing quite a good job. We're looking at the Sunpoint Social Service, and we're encouraging everybody who has the means, who is a diaspora, who can support the youths back here at home, not to relent. If we're in a religious setting, you always say that you should not look on your sins, but you look at the faith that you have in realizing this project. So thank you, Miranda. You're always welcome to our platform. And today we're looking at how diaspora can actually play their own part in achieving Agenda 2063. And you are just a square peg in a square hole, doing quite a marvelous job with the returnees. It's today that I actually understood what the returnees really mean when you had to explain those who are home, those who have come back, and those who are still abroad. That I got the point actually. When you used to say returnees, I was just like, oh, this is something just coined to look so fashionable. But I'm happy that you had to come back to actually make me understand what the returnees is all about. Thank you, Miranda. And we'll be continuing with our questions. On the board, I have there are diverse ways we work with the African Union. The African
Mhm.
Union is represented during our African Week from the 24th to the 29th of May, and with that registration for the African Week is going on. This should be
That's
from the
right.
Sun Computer Service,
Yes.
who
Yes.
are
Thanks for that.
organizing an African week, of course, a week that
Mhm.
is going to be, thrilled, that is going to be attended, that is going to be uh, spiced with very top ranking stakeholders. And
Mhm.
we are going to be talking Africa on different topics. I hope that you
Yes,
will
as a
be
matter of fact,
around.
I'll just add to that. Thanks, Paul. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Elvis.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul Global TV, for that comment. And it's true, yes. Looking at every week, those 5 days, so from the 17th, from the 24th onto the 29th of May, every year in Germany, we have lots of activities in different places. We have Hamburg, where I've been to the past 4 years, actually, always in Hamburg, and then some or others in Berlin as well. This year, I'll be joining Sunpoint Global TV closely also to work on this. Yeah, that answers the question that you were asking earlier on, Elvis. And someone TV said it was just to show how the diaspora is falling in line with this agenda and what activities we put in place. So thanks for that. Yeah,
Thank you so much. I will
appreciate.
be
Yeah.
continuing with our exchange, and we're looking at the role of diaspora. I wish to know, we're talking about brain drain. You said government should listen to those returning home, and I want us to discuss a bit about on this point. And when I look at this point, I see a brain drain, and we will understand and bear also in mind that there are many who wish to come back, but they cannot come back because they are not sure if they are going to be accepted, if they are going to be integrated, if the working conditions are going to be like they want, if the government is actually going to listen to them for innovative reforms and equally make working conditions very appreciable. And I wish to ask you, Miranda,
Mhm.
how can the diaspora help in this issue of brain drain? What do you think? What can be done?
Um,
People should
what
come
is
back home
already, yes,
and
what
get
is already
experience.
being done, what is already being done and should be replicated is again, sometimes when the diaspora goes home and you're talking directly to the people, they just feel like, oh, you're sounding that way because you're from the diaspora. So there's already that little diaspora home-based complex, which is always in the air. And so what
Mhm,
we discovered when we did the findings, so in September and October of 2016, when we kicked off the Returnees project, first we went on a trip, really a road trip in 5 regions. So we did the Northwest region back then, the West region, the Center
mhm,
region, the Littoral, and the Southwest region in September and October of 2016. And we put a
mhm,
book with findings. These findings were to try to find how easy is it for the diaspora to, one, return, two, even just have themselves heard on the ground. Thank you very much, Sunpoint Global TV. The reason why we did these findings and put together is we know already there is that gap between the two worlds, the diaspora
mhm,
and those home based. And the people we talked to who facilitated our meetings were those who had effectively packed their bags and returned home. So they served like that lever from who could answer our questions, who could get us directly in touch with the local authorities. And we were able to come up with these findings reserved for anyone who wants to have that. Findings which show now how the diaspora could be even heard on the ground. And so what is already being done and has been replicated. We work, for example, with the University, St. Louis University of Douala, also Bamenda. St. Louis University now has hundreds and hundreds of students, as well as hundreds and hundreds of teachers, some returnees, some not. The brain gain situation is we will get now experts in different domains, be it technology. If it is technology, we work here in Germany. We have two groups. The Camphomedics is the Cameroonian medical doctors here in Germany, and then we have the the acronym is VKII. That's Verein für Kamerunische Ingenieur und Informatiker. That's in German, as in saying the Organization of Cameroonian Engineers and people in the domain of IT. So these groups have experts in their fields. I mean, when I shake off all this, I'm an IT engineer. So we connect with these universities and offer courses, first of all, when we're home. So when we go home, yes, we go sometimes just to holiday, but we make sure we have meetings with these institutions and talk to the younger ones and get them trained on particular domains. The Camphomedics, I'll comment at this point, has done a lot the past 25 years in Cameroon. They've been existing for about 25 years. The VKII, which is the engineers in Germany as well, they set up this and go to different universities. They do the Chang University and they do the University of Douala as well, where they really set up lectures and they actually set up practices with entrepreneurs on the ground. So most of all, to get that brain gain, we work with the experts in the diaspora who now connect with those who have returned home and are able to leverage through universities, also high schools, to give lectures as well as do exchange with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship became very, let me put it, popular the past 5 years because we realized that you have that good connection between profession and passion. And then if you're able to make money out of your profession and your passion, it worked really well. When I'm in Cameroon, I hardly go into Western outfits. I get the designers there who make the clothes. So why stuff things in my box here and pay extra charges to fly to Cameroon when we have designers who can make outfits? I have business suits for work which are made in Cameroon. That's how you encourage the young entrepreneurs there. That brain gain is not only going to teach them, but teach them how to use their skills as well. So it's the educational side of it as well as the entrepreneurship side of it. There are many actually who are returnees who have, let me call it what, baby products. So if you're flying home, you have baby lotion made in Cameroon, you have baby products made in Cameroon, so many young entrepreneurs on the ground. My cry is, when is that day going to come when we know our made in Cameroon products are equally as good and we consume them and encourage the young entrepreneurs there? That's why when you see on our platform, if you go to the Facebook page, the Returnees Project Inc., INC, the Returnees Project Inc. encourages these young entrepreneurs. Last weekend, my team just gave out another 200,000 cash prize to a young entrepreneur who put up his concept. And what does he do? He runs errands and does a lot of things that the diaspora needs when they move back home. The questions they ask, what kind of connectivity to use? Because when we're back home, we don't have this fast internet connection unless someone tells you what bundle to subscribe to. Those are little things, but they save a lot of time. So to answer your question again with brain gain, we work with the engineers in Germany and the medical doctors in Germany. We also set up different platforms for agriculture, beauty, and then products like for the young entrepreneurs, products which have to do with how do you call that? How do you call that? What I'll just mention him here, Thierry Nyaman, the processing. Yeah, food processing. That's right. So food processing has something which has become also very, very popular. And so if the people could recognize quite quickly their strength, yes, dress by Africa, by Africa. So I always do FABA, for Africa, by Africa. Yeah. And then that as well, made in Cameroon products. Yes. The biggest cry of the made in Cameroon products is check again. I always refer back to the Returnees platform. Last year, we had a series of interviews, which it's not only the made in Cameroon, only in Cameroon, but also the made in Cameroon in the West. Mm-hmm. How great is it if we can support our own people who are producing things that we need? If we could invest in each other's businesses, imagine that. Let me just take someone I know, Vera Sompon. Vera opens up a business. She needs 15 people. She employs them. We buy so much that she employs another 30 people. We buy so much that she employs another 50 people. That's how a nation grows. That's how we get better, be it in the West or back home, if only we could consume our own. But again, I also talk to the entrepreneurs is watch out how you do your packaging, right? Because that's our cry sometimes that our quality is not so good. Give these young entrepreneurs and the seasoned entrepreneurs feedback on how to make their stuff better. Let's focus on holding the hands of our own people, having them grow. That brain gain, which is one, education, two is support. Support your own whenever you can. I've been on meetings, back to back meetings since, yes, for Africa by Africa. I've been on meetings from 8:15 this morning, of course, at my job, IT manager. But after that, I can consecrate this 1 hour and give back to the continent and talk and show different products which are made by our own people, which we consume. So yes, we work with the medical institutions going back to, train the young ones back home. I personally set up workshops when I'm in Cameroon and get the experts for each domain to now train the others in Cameroon. I mean, I could talk on and on when it comes to made in Cameroon or globally made in Africa.
I, I get this your saying or this your abbreviation FABA for Africa by Africa. And I remember when we were on the stage last time, you still kept encouraging that why carry boxes and luggages and begin to pay huge sums of money for extra luggage when you can just find everything in Cameroon. Thank you so much, Miranda. You were always an inspiration when you come because I remember I spoke with some friends and they had to travel home without carrying too much luggage and were so happy with what they had in the country. Bio, they ate natural food, they had natural fruits, all the food products for babies were available, and
That's right.
they said the babies even loved them and they had to buy some from here and carry it back to where they are. Thank you so much. When you
That's
talk
right.
of Haba for Africa by
Bye.
Africans,
Africa.
I know where you are coming from. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. We are going to continue. I was talking about brain drain, and you have put it as brain gain because when you talk of organizing seminars, motivating the youth who are back home, informing them, organizing workshops, it actually brings back the knowledge and the expertise that you have gained from overseas, and it is a plus to those who are in the profession. And you say, well, you link passion and profession, and you make money out of it, it's actually a good thing. Thank you so much. And I know my CEO must be smiling in the corner where she is because that is just what she does. She links her passion and her profession, and things just get going. My CEO, I hail you. Thank you so much, Madam, for being with us. Remember, our topic for those who are just joining us is to see the role that the diaspora can play in achieving the Agenda 2063 and the Africa that we want, of course. And we want to see how we can popularize and domesticate this agenda so that everybody knows it because it's cut and shaped for Africans by Africans. And you were already getting into my next question, which I wanted to ask you. I wanted to see what approaches have been used or can be used to optimize diaspora potentials when it comes to development. You're already talking of preparing workshops, uh, you know, getting the youth to know what is done back home and working with them, informing them, and that we should focus equally on holding the hands of our people. It means that when you come back home, you actually hold their hands. What other approaches could be used apart from just preparing workshops and educative talks with some of our youths or some other areas when you come back home in order to make your weight feel, in order to make them know that you have acquired knowledge and that you want to share this knowledge with them so that the gap between the West and home should actually be closed somehow.
Yeah, well, with that, we carried out a survey the last time and tried to find out from the diaspora when you go back home or when you want to move back home, what is one of the biggest worries you have in your mind? Top on the list was health. Health is what came up. And then after that, they mentioned, of course, having a good job. They mention also education for their kids, so health and having a good job and education for their kids. And asking this question of how else, what other approaches can be done to have, the diaspora shine their potentials. I'll give this example, and this goes to whenever any member of government watches this, is facilitate especially the gifts. I'll put this example, gifts which the West bring to hand over to the country. There was a lady in the past who did something called paracetamol, and she did other, things like medical equipment. So she would have that from hospitals, very good state of the art equipment, which maybe were ordered like double, they didn't need, or medication. I'll put it like paracetamol, which could last for about 2 years. All she needed was to go give this at hospitals and clinics and boarding schools in Cameroon. So she traveled into Douala, and that was stopped at the customs. She needed to pay huge sums of money to give gifts she had brought for her people. In the sector of health, and health is the highest worry on people's minds when they're home or when they move back home. So you can imagine her disappointment. Do you think she wants to go through that pain and trouble again the next year and years to come? So for the government, I would say starting with facilitate the, I don't want to always hammer this, but the arrival of important goods from the West. Second example was wheelchairs. A friend of ours who also does a lot in the community in the domain of health traveled home with lots of wheelchairs, not for sale, to offer them in handicap centers, to offer them. He got to the poor, and the license showed it, not for sale, in correlation with a particular hospital. I think it was in 3 different regions. He was just going to offer that as gifts. That container was blocked at the poor, asking him millions of money to withdraw that. But he had all evidence that this is not being sold. The people from the hospitals also said, yeah, they're gifts for us. How can we as a people, as a government, start by making that easy? Then we can now talk about the business people who come there and they have products which they want to come and sell on the country, or goods. But the ones which are coming there for free, you couldn't be asking them. These are people I know personally. So it's not a story that came along the road. That's the first one. Another way you can make things easier for the diaspora is when, I don't know, it's probably hard sometimes when people think like, sometimes you don't think properly of the diaspora, but I'll talk to the diaspora instead. If you want to make your potentials felt in Cameroon, this is what we did as the Returnees project. We didn't work with institutions per se. We worked with people like you and I. So in the Ministry of External Relations, when we presented the project for the first time and the delegation was sent to us, they represent the ministry. Out of this delegation and just conversations with them, we identified 3 of them who are young like you and I, and they have a vision for a better country. So we continued work with these 3 who pushed our files throughout the system. We didn't keep on writing now to the institution as the body. We have these 3 people like our collaborators. So I speak instead to the diaspora. If you want to have your potential felt, work with people and not institutions. So when I mention, for example, working with the universities, don't just send an email to the University of Chang. Don't just send an email to the University of Douala or to the St. Louis University. Send it to an individual you can address as a person. When you address to this person, the success rate for us has been higher, right? So if you want the diaspora potentials to be felt at home, work with people and individuals, and they will, get you, or let me say, they will do what needs to be done to get your project where it needs to be. Thank you very much, Sampon Global TV. They will get you where you want to be. Because if we just, the first time, I think we were pretty strategic. Because when we went into the country, we could have worked top down from the ministers, because I have the conferences with them. I could start by introducing the Returnees project at that level, but we chose to work bottom up. So we work with the people, so that when we have our reports and we come and place anything on any table, they watch us on the news, they watch us on all these TV channels. I'll mention them: STV, Canal 2, CRTV, all these TV channels. And then you wake up in the morning, on the radio, we're on the radio. When we're all over and they hear the work we do, they got curious. So they instead approached us. So we had now that advantage of talking at that, let me say, higher level, because they approached us because of the work we had been doing with the people. So the institution, I always say an institution is what? That's the wall at the ministry. It doesn't breathe, it doesn't talk, it doesn't have a heart like you and I. But when I talk to Elvis and I put my cry out there for these young entrepreneurs, I get people from the diaspora who support financially, and they have the projects presented and the money goes to the people directly. So they can thank the person who sent money to them for a project. One of them, I'll give an example, Baku Gildas. What he does is cleaning water tanks. Do I have to wait at the hospital for this child to come all sick or the whole family sick because the water tanks were infected? No. You support Mbaku Gildas, who has a project with young entrepreneurs to clean water tanks all over the neighborhood. He has a glass of the water before he cleaned it, a glass of water after he had cleaned the water. So you support him, then he cleans the tanks, then the people don't get sick. So you work with the individuals and not the institutions.
Thank you
That
so
has
much.
been
That
our
sounded
success.
like was your last word, but you're still going to come because I know your last word can be so many. And that was so interesting. Work with the people and not the institution, because the institution is just a word which is
Yes,
lifeless, whereas the people have a heart and they can
yes,
feel what is
yes,
going on the ground. Thank you so much. You just made mention of a gift coming into the country for philanthropic work. But now I was about to ask you that question because most of our diaspora, they come with things in the country, but what I have realized is that these things that they bring, some say that they want to come and help us, but we instead buy at exorbitant prices. And I begin to ask myself, are these diaspora actually out to help their own fellow brothers back at home or to ruin them financially?
I would say one thing, starting with if there's anything on the ground in Cameroon, you lose nothing. I mean, it was probably maybe some years ago when you felt like it was lovely to have things from abroad. It's not anymore. The world is such a global village that what do you want to do? For anything I can afford and I have in Cameroon, while I'm in Cameroon, if I were in Cameroon, I wouldn't bother about the things from abroad. That's to start with. Look locally and see who makes those great. I tell you, we have a plethora of people who make great shoes in Cameroon. We have a plethora of people who make outfits in Cameroon. We have a plethora of people who make school bags in Cameroon. All this found online. Buy from them. Now, when the diaspora brings a backpack or a truck or how do you call it, the container full of backpacks and wants to sell there, I won't even buy from the diaspora. I will buy from the locally made person who has the good backpacks there. There are many. Ask my team, write to the Returnees Project Incorporated. We will give you links to people who have these items, shoes, all these things that you need to have there on the ground. It's long ago, people used to feel like, oh, it's so cool to have a backpack from abroad. You can give a gift, but don't buy it because you think it's from abroad. Because when you mention now what you said, Elvis, is they come and sell it at exorbitant prices to you.
Mhm.
You always have to think, yes, it's good to have one or two things from abroad, I accept, but the population should focus on getting the affordable ones from the country. And the more you buy from these local entrepreneurs, trust me, the secret is entrepreneurship. The secret of this success, be it diasporan or Cameroonian, wherever in the world, the true secret is entrepreneurship. When
Okay.
you have those goods, but the more you buy, the
Yeah.
cheaper it's going to become.
Thank you so much. When you insist like that, I remember because you always talk of let us produce what we
Yes,
consume and consume what we produce, and that home produce is always the best. Thank you so much. I would like you to summarize. You have given, if I want to ask you success stories, the time will not be enough. Can I ask Agenda
it
2023? We have 5 minutes to go. And in that
won't. Yes.
summary, you're going to give your last word of encouragement to the youth and equally to the Sunpoint Social Service who are there working hand in gloves or parallel with you in the same direction to make Africa what we want it to be by 2063, Miranda.
Okay. To start with, I would want everybody to, you watching today, you who is going to watch later, look at yourself, right? The Africa we want starts with you. What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your home? What do you want for your community, your city, your nation, and then your continent? Start with yourself. When you identify what you want, the agenda will be written, yes. But then move on to the next thing. You've identified what you want for yourself. What can you do? We all come into the world with such gifts, and so many of us are gifted and unique in so many different ways. What gift can you, watching today or later, how can you contribute to the growth of your continent? What can you do? What can I do? Right? Rhetoric is what can I do? When you identify what you want for your continent, you identify what you can do. Now find around you a network. You say your network is your net worth. Who can build with you? You are the one seeing the reality on the ground around you. The diaspora will come and talk. The AU will come and talk. We all wish that the Africa is better, but it starts with one home, one community, one nation, one continent. And you, each individual, can contribute. So, what can you identify and what can you do about it? Like I said sometime during this, I said, everyone has a voice, but not every voice is heard. For those who have their
What?
voices that can be heard, amplify it. Amplify that voice and speak for yourself, for your community as well. If you find something that the diaspora is doing and you think it is, amplify that. If the diaspora is doing something and you think it is not proper, also state that. Always be that voice of caution when it's not working well, and amplify in the right direction when it's going well. Commend someone. I had a message once from the CEO of Someone Global TV. No, she just called to say great work. How many of us can call someone and tell them great work? Do that. Sometimes someone needs just that pat on their back and then they can perform more miracles. Now, one thing I put at the heart of all this for the success of the Agenda 2063 is again entrepreneurship. And that goes hand in hand with us buying from each other. Think about, if you don't have the information, reach out to me and my team. Where can I buy shoes from a sister, a brother? I mean, good quality shoes that are comfortable. How can I educate another person with my skills and talents? Can I go to a university and give a lecture? Can I just prepare a workshop and teach entrepreneurs how to be better entrepreneurs? What is it I can give the people? Can I set up a workshop and bring experts to train the others? What is it you can do to make things better? To Someone Global TV, my message is quite easy. You've been doing marvelous. Just keep up. You've been doing marvelous. All this you're doing, people see what you do, even if they don't say it. I wish they would say it more, but people see what you do. Encouraging those back home, encouraging the youths and their skills and talents, putting people on, giving people that face, giving people that potential. Even when it started, you would do courses just to get those who just came to Germany better with their language skills. Yes, language helps a lot. So for Someone Global TV, I would say just keep up the great work. And in the 1 minute that is left, I would say you can never tell who is watching what you're doing. I always say I can work top down because I'm in touch. Like I mentioned to you, the government of Uganda is right now considering replicating our Returnees project in Uganda. But the success mostly works bottom up. When you reach the people directly, see what it is their need is, talk to them, encourage them, build them, give them the network they need to grow and improve the Africa we all want to have in the future. So your network is your network. Again, FABA, for Africa, by Africa.
My
No one
Africa.
is
Thank
coming
you.
to
Thank
save
you.
us. No one
Thank
is
you.
coming to
Thank
save
you.
us but you
Mhm.
and I. So please roll up your sleeves wherever you are. Do what you can with the skills that are given to you. And remember, you never know who is watching. So always be an inspiration.
Thank
That's
you
it from
so much. Thank you so much. I leave our viewers with these words. You see, those whose voices can be heard, these voices should be amplified because not all voices are heard, and that for what has been done so far, let it be repeated so that it will make things much better. You say, what is it you can do to make it better, and that we should consume our local produce when we are back home. You say, everyone has a voice, but not all voices are heard. Thank you so much for being there. And we are going back with our abbreviation, FABA, for Africa by Africa. And this is from Miranda OBEN, who is from the Returnees and doing quite a wonderful job back home to see that things get better and that we achieve our Agenda 2063. I can't thank you enough for always being there with us. Thank you so much and do have a blessed evening.
Thank you
Bye
for having me. Thank you, everyone.
bye. Thank you.